Why do so many tokenization projects never really get off the ground? Why do they fail?
People think that just tokenizing it creates that market, it becomes magical, and instantly everyone wants it.
So would you say then that's where most early stage kind of tokenization projects fail? Tokenization isn't the magic wand, a shit asset, basically.
Does the model work without tokenization? If the answer is no, chances are tokenization is not going to be the answer.
What would you say is the most common failure point?
Legal and structuring. Tech is tech. It works in a manner. The difficult part is structuring. What are you actually building? What are you actually selling? Can you tokenize a cup of coffee? Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the problem you're solving? There's not really a problem.
Yeah. 75% of Dubai residents do not own any Dubai real estate. It becomes increasingly difficult to do so.
I hope people are not looking at this as trading it like stocks, because it is not.
Yep. We're not creating a market that doesn't exist here. We're just taking an asset class that's highly illiquid.
Native direct tokenization is the future. Do we know everything? No. But we're going to figure it out. As long as it's not like a one-door route, we can come back, we can change direction.
And ultimately just keep moving forward. And I think that forward momentum is so important in building a business.
If you walk, you'll get there.
Yeah.
If you run and you fall down, and you get up and you run and you fall down, and you get up and you run, you'll still get there faster.
Welcome back to this episode of Block by Block. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Robert Farquhar, who's the CEO of MENA for Control Alt. Control Alt are an issuer partner of Tribes, and Robert himself is a member of the advisory tribe. We're going to talk about how building a tokenization platform often breaks, what founders or startups typically usually over-engineer, and why building a platform like Tribe typically forces you to think about big things early on. I hope you enjoy the episode. Robert, welcome to Block by Block. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, of course.
Took several meeting requests with your PA, but we've got you here. So good job, June. Shout out to her from the get-go. And yeah, glad I sent across the questions. So you're ready?
Well prepped.
So I guess first and foremost, obviously you come from a background that has a wide range of experience, and I would say most people know you for tokenization projects. But could you tell us a little bit about how you got there?
Yeah, sure. It's it's very much like most people in the Web3 industry. It's doing something completely different. Nothing to do with tech, nothing to do with tokenization or blockchain, and then falling into it. So I used to head a number of fractional ownership company, various forms, the FSA, then moving into the VARA side.
Yeah.
I really fell in love with what tokenization can bring to the market. Different investor rights, different ways that existing models can be improved.
Yeah.
Then I just started learning more, and then I was offered an opportunity, which I took, and then sort of landed where I am now.
Very cool. When we started Tribe, or when we had the idea of starting Tribe, we got told, you need to speak to Robert. You need to speak to Robert. You need to speak to Robert. And this was before you had a PA, so you can imagine how difficult it was to get hold of you then. And then eventually we spoke to you, and like, who is this guy? Like, what is this elusive character? And needless to say, I think we struck a chord or got on very well from day one. I think it was you were back in the UK at the time, in is it Liverpool Street or wherever the office was at the
it's
time?
just opposite, yeah.
And obviously started talking, and I think, like I said, you're already well known in the space for good reason, and absolutely you played a fairly significant and meaningful part in us deciding to go for it, which is why we're here today. So an early thank you, I guess, is in order. You mentioned obviously falling into the space by accident, but you've since earned your stripes. You've seen a number of different projects come and go.
Yeah, and
I guess that's where I want to start, which is, why do so many tokenization projects never really get off the ground? Why do they fail?
Because they feel like tokenizing something makes it valid. It brings the liquidity. And it's a conversation we have with an enormous amount of people, as you can imagine, is I want to tokenize an asset because it's not selling or because I can't find a market for it.
Yeah.
And people think that just tokenizing it creates that market. It becomes magical and instantly everyone wants it. I think, as you know very well, you have to have a marketable product that you can then say, okay, now what does tokenization bring, which is in addition to a great product? if the tokenization is the great product, what you are is a tokenization company, not a distribution company. So we see an enormous amount. I think as well, it's people that don't understand what being regulated means. So being in this market and being a regulated company is very different to how a lot of these companies have experienced business before. I mean, I've been privileged to be CEO of a couple of regulated companies now, and that is first and foremost the important part. Is making sure that everything you do is by the book, done in a professional manner. And we work in the real estate market in Dubai. There's a lot of companies which do not fit that mold, but they want to move into this space because they see it selling, they see it exciting, and then they're learning a lot on how it happens to run a regulated company.
So would you say then that's where most kind of early stage ventures or early stage kind of tokenization projects fail? Is it the first or one of the first regulatory hurdles, or is it something else?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the first. Like the first one, you've been through this process, getting onboarded, like starting that process with the regulator. It's a lot of work, but it's not material. You then go through that exercise of saying, okay, I'm going to show the regulator that I am fully operationally ready. I have everything lined up, everything good to go. That is time consuming. That is expensive. And that requires a lot of knowledge. That is where we see a lot of them fail. As they start moving through that, things are starting to get serious now. And then they sort of drop off. Now, the regulator is very good at helping people move through that process, but the companies have to be there ready to put in the effort themselves as well.
Yes. I mean, ultimately, the regulators are there to make sure people are doing the right things in the right way, etc. They're not there to be the commercial driver of a business, right? They're not there to run the business for you. In fact, quite the opposite. And just like you say, tokenization isn't the magic wand to a shit asset, basically. Neither is regulation a magic wand for a commercial model.
You've got to know what you're doing.
Absolutely. So what would you say is the most common failure point? Is it legal structure? Is it regulation? Is it technical or commercial? Which one would you say you've seen the most kind of critical failure points?
Legal and structuring. So the technical, tech is tech. It works in a manner. Now, with a lot of our partners, we provide that tokenization technology, so they don't have to build that. What they have to build is front-end integrations, make the whole shebang work. But that's not the very difficult part. The difficult part is structuring. What are you actually building? What are you actually selling? How are people's rights portrayed in an accurate manner? That's the thing that the regulator really cares about. Because everything else can run. It's how are you protecting those investors? How are you selling something in the correct manner? So the legal and the structuring side is difficult for a lot of people.
I mean, I think we can all speak from experience that you're almost like a professional juggler to get these projects, not just off the ground, but actually kept off the ground and not letting one of those balls drop. So
gone are the days of lots of tasks, master of none. Now it's everything.
You got to master everything. No, I completely agree. What would you say for those thinking of building a tokenization platform of some description, whether that's real estate, whether that's other assets? I've seen recently you've tokenized diamond inventory. There's been the tokenization of gold and silver and so on and so forth. As you look to build a tokenization business, let's say, what would you say looks straightforward on paper on a whiteboard, but then quickly falls apart when you start putting it into practice?
I think the first thing you ask yourself is, why are you doing it? And it's a conversation and it's a question I ask everyone. They come and they say, I want to build this business and I want to tokenize it. And I say, why? Because as we alluded to at the start, there's a lot of companies that think it's a magic pill. So unless there's a very clear answer as to why something should be tokenized, very often that's not the correct route. Now you can force it into that route, but then the conversation is always going to be, why are there additional costs? Why is there additional time? Why is there additional tech work to tokenize something that you can just run normally? Now, examples like a coffee shop, can you tokenize a cup of coffee? Yeah, but why? Because that coffee is just going to be sold regardless. I think when people are looking at what they can do, our focus at the moment is a lot on high quality assets that are illiquid. And that's why we started with real estate.
Yep.
You invest in real estate, you know what you're about.
Yeah.
But it's an illiquid asset. Now, how can you start doing something with it?
Yeah.
Same with the commodities, diamonds, gold, silver. These are assets that people want to invest in and they want to be long in that investment.
Yeah.
But then how can you start doing something more with that asset once you've bought it? And that's where tokenization creates an additional revenue stream. So you can start doing something with that token and getting a yield as well as being long on that asset.
Do you think you've kind of sparked another question in my mind? So I'm going off piste already. I did quite well. But you said earlier that people feel like tokenization is effectively like waving a magic wand at a, call it a poor asset or a non-sellable or non-attractive asset. Do you think there's a misconception in the consumer or investor's mind around tokenization as well? Meaning, if you look at real estate as an asset class, it is a long investment cycle, right? Or a long investment hold, typically. To buy, ignore the last 4 years, but even so, 4 years is still long versus, day trading stocks or crypto. So do you think that people make the mistake of thinking that tokenization equals day trading and short-term investing?
I would hope not.
But do they? Do you think?
I think when you run up the costs associated to it, because there are fees.
Yeah.
You've got DLD fees, you've got platform fees, all of these fees add up. Now, we always used to have a rule that if you invest in real estate, you're in it for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Because then you're covering your costs of that investment and then you can sell, and depending on where the market is, you're going to be breaking even.
Yep.
Here, it's arguably worse because you have more fees when you go through one of these platforms.
Yeah.
Now, that's offset by the fact that rental yield is very high here and capital appreciation is very good here, especially over the past 4 years.
Yeah.
But then we're talking about end of COVID onwards, and they have been an extraordinary years.
Yeah. So I saw already actually 56% compound annual growth rate over the last,
which is crazy.
4 or 5 years.
Where else do you get that?
No.
Now, I think it's crazy to think that is going to continue for the next 4-8 years.
No.
But we are still going to see very attractive capital appreciation and very attractive yield. My portfolio in the UK, I get maybe like 3-4% net on per annum. It's miles apart from what you expected to get here. So I'd say the majority of the investors that I know that have put in, and myself, I have as well, we are in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's just there is that option for liquidity. So if you have your own property and you want to sell the whole amount, you're looking for one buyer, and that one buyer needs to have the full amount. So you may sell that on a distressed amount for the full value of the property, and you lose quite a lot of money. Now, if you then say, okay, I want this in a fractional sense, one, benefits above existing market is you're not looking for an exit window every 6 months. That exit window can be whenever you want.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at saying, okay, well, that means the market is there buying constantly rather than pushed into that one week window every 6 months. Yeah. So you'd see a more organic shift in properties. So then if you need to sell, there's a medical emergency and you need cash. Yeah, you want to sell it. Fine.
Yeah.
You might say, I'm willing to take a little bit of a loss even. There's the market for that.
Yeah.
So, maybe you say, I'm going to trade at market price and someone's going to buy it because people are wanting to come in. A really long-winded way of saying, I hope people are not looking at this as trading it like stocks, because it is not.
Yep.
But it does give you that flexibility.
100%. I think that's something I want for Tribe, whether it's me on this podcast, the guests, the team members, to continually hammer home that message, right? In that we're not creating a market that doesn't exist here. We're just taking an asset class that's, very unaccessible for a lot of people and highly illiquid in the, for the most part, and attacking those two problems, but we're not making it something that you can day trade and flip from 1 week to another or 1 month to another even. And I think, like you said, if you have that mindset that if you're investing in real estate in whatever way, but particularly through Tribe on a tokenized basis, that you should be investing with a 3-year mindset in mind to make your money. Yeah. If you need to recover your money or liquidate, urgently, well, then there's an emergency exit, like you said. So let's just rewind a little bit. I mentioned we reached out to you as Tribe in the very, very early days. I think even prior to fully incorporating, as we were looking at starting the VARA process. You're a busy guy. We've already established that. And you have projects coming out of every orifice. So what struck you about Tribe and what we were looking to do? Because at the time we were literally only looking at we hadn't done anything. And get you to a point where one, Control Alt, would be a partner, two, you would be an advisor, and three, we would end up bumping into each other at, exhibitions in different cities around the region. What caught your eye or sparked something in your mind with regards to Tribe specifically?
Yeah, of course. And this is a fairly easy one. One, I like you guys. I think you go about this the right way, and that is in a professional way. But more so, I believe very strongly in social impact and movement of classes.
Yeah.
So democratization, I hate the word. I think it gets overused.
Yeah.
But I think the whole benefit of why we started this, why we felt this was very powerful, is because investors that weren't able to invest could.
Yeah.
Now, I think you guys take that a step further. So we had a program in the UK, and it was called shared ownership.
Yeah.
And it was where you could invest in a property, and then the housing association owned the rest of the property, and every month you could buy a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you would only pay rent on the portion that you didn't own.
Yeah.
So it was a way to get people to start getting on the housing ladder. And it was very powerful because, as we know, deposits are the struggle for most people when they're looking to purchase a property.
Yeah.
Rent and mortgages offset.
Yeah.
It's that lump sum at the start that's difficult. So what I really liked about your model of taking that a step forward and solving some of the problems that the UK version had, which is, as you invest, you get right of first refusal on tokens that come available. So you can start purchasing more and more of that property with an eventual outright purchase goal in mind. That was not in the UK version. There was also a case of you are an investor and a tenant. So from the investor perspective, if you own 5% of it, you're paying 5% of the costs, you're getting 5% of the income. Now, you also, from the tenant perspective, are paying that, but the costs of maintenance are spread throughout all of those investors, as they should be. And that was the biggest problem with the UK, the way they did it, was all of the costs were borne by the renter, even if they only owned 5% of it. So I think actually getting on the housing ladder and with an aim to own that property that you're renting is super powerful. And that really appealed to me. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. So maybe something we haven't spoken about so far in the podcast is this point around the rent and own structure that we've built within the Tribe secondary market. We call it a waterfall structure. And the reason we've done that is because 75% of Dubai residents do not own any Dubai real estate. And now, as people make this place increasingly their home for the long term, myself, I'm now in my 11th year. I know many people that have been here much longer, and I know people that are now past the 5-year mark, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're at the 10-year mark, and so on and so forth. And if you don't get into the real estate game early in your journey here in Dubai, it becomes increasingly difficult to do so. So that's why we created this rent and own mechanism. One, because we felt like something needed to be done, but in this case, tokenization made it possible, right? So it's not necessarily a magic pill or a magic wand, but it absolutely is a technical and regulatory enabler of building equity over time in a legitimate way. And again, one that's fair from a ownership perspective, a tenant responsibility perspective as well. So for anyone watching or listening, the way that it works within the Tribe app is that when a property is fully funded and that property is then rented out long term, the tenant, whether the tenant invested at the listing stage or not, the tenant, by virtue of being the tenant, has the right of first refusal on any secondary token that becomes available in that property for as long as they are the tenant. The ultimate goal is to, one, get them up to a 20% ownership position. That's ultimate goal number one. And ultimate goal number two is when the property is fully exited, that tenant also has the right of first refusal to buy the property outright. Again, solving for the property ownership delta that exists here in Dubai and one of the high priority items on the D33 agenda. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. It's something that we haven't really spoken about before, but it's such an important point from a mission perspective as to why Tribe exists. So let's move a little bit to, we talked about legal and regulatory. Let's talk a little bit about technical as well, and I guess the overlap. And we get asked around, how did you choose, which chain to build on? What blockchain choices did you have, and did you make the right one? Yada yada yada. I mean, that conversation could go on forever and actually never end. But where does the complexity really sit when it comes to making decisions like that, linked with regulatory restrictions or preferences, and you know what I mean? Like, where do you see the, that challenge lie for founders building in the space?
Yeah, so I'll cover the blockchain one first, because I think that's the one that I get asked the most.
I bet.
Because it's very contentious. I mean, you get maxis across every single chain.
Yeah.
So you cannot please everyone. So we are chain agnostic. We integrate and we work on multiple chains. I think one of the important things to consider is not every chain is right for every product.
Yeah.
There are some chains which are very DeFi focused, and if I wanted to do something quite crazy in that world, that would definitely be the one that I wanted to use. There are others which are more institutional, and if I want to do institutional plays, something that's sensible, gets a lot of security and people have trust in, that's my movement. So one of the benefits of working with governments is they're very sensible about how they approach this. Some customers do not care.
Yeah.
I can place that on whichever chain I want and alas. Governments, that's never a point of non-contention. It's always something they want to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
We very often have evaluation committees from various members of governments, various advisors, all come together and assess all of the different chains. Okay. So first port is always, can the chain technically do what is required of it? Always has to be the first port of call. Nearly every chain can do what we need in this scenario, because what we're doing is we use a chain like a bowl, and we place assets in that bowl and we move them around and they're recorded on that ledger. Near enough every chain will do what we need in that regard.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to a reputation point. So they want to go with a chain that has the right level of gravitas, but they want a chain that is suitable and is seen to be suitable.
Yeah.
Then we start going into what is average downtime over the past few years, or generally over the life cycle. One thing that almost never comes into those conversations is cost. It's almost seen as the last point, and we cover costs. So I think that's why it's not ever on their minds. But it's always, is the chain suitable? Can it do technically what is required? Is it constantly up? Has it had a load of issues with downtime? Does it have a load of legal issues going on? How long has the chain been around for? So there's sort of comments that we get a lot, and we work with those evaluation teams and deliver a chain which is good for what they've done. And that's why in their DRD model, all those tokens are placed on XRPL and Ripple. Ripple is an institutional chain and well respected for this sort of work. So it sort of seemed like the natural fit for a lot of the members of government there.
And so far so good. So far so good. Ripple and XRPL.
Yeah.
Touch wood. Yeah. Yep. So of course, and ultimately building within that ecosystem, Tribe is working, with Ripple in that regard too. So hopefully we'll get them on soon. In terms of the technical decisions that, again, I'm looking at this purely through the lens of early stage ventures, whether that's true startups or whether that's branches of, more established, bigger organizations. How early should the legal and regulatory environment or structures influence technical decisions?
You wouldn't, I think, necessarily impact a lot of technical decisions, because tech ultimately is tech. And the great thing about it is you can do almost anything, especially in this space. You can do almost whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's always, how do you structure that suitable product in a way that is legal, is within the regulatory confines. Like, maybe I'm biased because our tech team is very good, but there's never been anything that I've said I want to do. And they've said, no, we can't technically do that.
Yeah.
It's always been okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are some confines with certain custody providers don't necessarily work with certain chains, or certain chains don't integrate with each other, like from an interoperability perspective. But they're not really the sort of problems we can solve regardless. Unless I wanted to mint something on one chain and then I wanted to see trades happen on a separate chain and there was no linkage between them, no bridge, that would create a problem. But then, frankly speaking, I would just mint and burn between chains and use an oracle. So there's ways around all of the perspectives. Yeah, I think the main thing I would say to anybody that was looking to move into this space is partner. I think, we do, and a lot of us do have a habit of saying, because we can do something, we should do something.
Yeah.
And the analogy I always use is a coffee shop, and you've probably heard me say this before, we can all start a coffee shop if we want, but we don't. We go to a coffee shop and we buy our coffee.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the hassle of dealing with running a coffee shop. I don't want to know that much about coffee. I just want the end result. And I think a lot of that works from the technical space as well. You don't want to know how all of that tech works. You just want the result of it. Yeah. And that's why we do very well when we partner with other people, because we take all of that away. Is it, you want X, we will give you X. You don't need to know about A, B, C, D, E, F, G that gets to that X. Yeah. That is just done.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. I think one of the themes that's coming up here is the commercial aspect. So we said, is it legal, regulatory, tech, or commercial that's, the common trip up or obstacle. And it sounds like whether it's a coffee shop or tokenizing gold or real estate in our case, you have to come up with the commercial model first, i.e. what is it that you're selling, how much you're selling it for, and who on earth is going to buy it. And if you can't answer those questions, then chances are you probably shouldn't go any further until you can. Or if you can't answer the questions, just kill the idea and move on, do something else.
I think the easy check is, does the model work without tokenization?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, then chances are tokenization is not going to be the answer.
Yeah.
It's always an additive. It's always something additional. You can get operational efficiencies, cost efficiencies, some additional market participants. But if the model does not even work without tokenization, chances are it's not going to work with tokenization.
Okay, from a technical perspective, let me ask a bit of a multi-layered question here, and you can attack it however you will. Typically, what do people over-engineer? What do they overbuild or compensate for from a technical perspective? And on the other side, on the flip side of that spectrum, what do people underestimate or ignore? Any good examples?
Yeah, we find that so many people that we work with want to build out the tokenization engine themselves. And it's always a very strange one for me, because I think the majority of people have no idea what's involved in that.
Yeah.
So they want to start doing things like taking order books. They want to start doing the allocation of how many tokens are going to be used. And this is all governance pieces that we run regardless.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to have a front end, like a distributor, which is doing the entire order book, and we just take that.
Yeah.
Because when we issue the tokens, we have to be, 100% clear this is definitely accurate.
Yeah.
So I think where there's that crossover between information that we get and information we give, there's very often that, like order book is a normal scenario. People want to give us the end result.
Yeah.
We said, don't give us the end result, give us the information. We'll manage that, and then we'll give you the end result.
Yeah.
So that's a common one. I think the under is just the simplicity of use. Like, we all know the best platforms are ones where the user journey is very, very efficient.
Yeah.
We always used to do how many clicks does it take to get to this stage?
Yeah.
And I think too many platforms that I look at, there's just so much, it's so complex, there's so much on the page, and the majority of it's just not needed. I think it's just a focus of, at the end of the day, there is a user that's coming here and they want to do something.
Yeah.
How do you get them to that place in the easiest manner possible?
Yeah.
So that product side of it is the side that I see most often that is, I wouldn't say not done correctly because it's obviously not my place, but I would say not done correctly.
Excellent. No, I agree. The UI, the UX component is so critical, and typically when founders are building in the Web3 or blockchain space, they're either technically gifted and so focused on kind of infrastructure, they're less customer facing and don't actually do that groundwork. One of the things we did, by design, was just speak to people as early as possible in our journey to try and figure out where did Tribe belong? Because we're building in the Web3 space, but actually we want to be a Web2 product as best we possibly can. Because if we go too Web3 on people, then we're going to lose them before they even start, particularly from a mass retail perspective. So I would agree with you there.
I always talk about what Web3 brings is efficiencies to web infrastructures. There's already safety, security, structure. We already know how investing in real estate works. So the Web3 world brings some efficiencies to that, but you don't want to be a Web3 company just selling properties via crypto on chain.
Yeah.
But it needs to be like, how do you get people to invest, feel safe and secure, but get the benefits of tokenization?
So you mentioned partnering as one of the kind of critical aspects to succeeding, if you will, or giving it, maybe maximizing your chances of success in the space. But if you were a founder, an early stage founder today, ignore your role at Control Alt for a moment, but you were going out on your own and you're starting a venture in the tokenization, blockchain, Web3, in the VARA regulated space, to kind of give it that context, that wrapper. What would you do yourself as that early stage founder to deliberately keep things simple and maximize your own chances of success?
I would look at what can I provide in an ancillary context to the market. So I think there's a lot of players now that are moving forwards, and I think anyone that is looking now at saying, I want to be part of this, I think they're missing the boat.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are all very well advanced, and everyone underestimates how long it takes to get a license.
Yes, I concur. Yeah. Me being one of them.
So I would now say, okay, what can I do? What can I bring to this market which benefits all of these other companies? And we know that in mature markets, they're the ones that very often succeed. It's you're bringing in ancillary product to help other people in the market, which means you can help all of them. You're not there as a direct competitor.
No.
You are there to facilitate a product to as many of those other people as possible. So from my business perspective, I would look at what's here already. I would then look at the DeFi world and I'll say, what is an existing product in that DeFi world that I can bring into the real estate, commodity, fund tokenization space, which is going to add a benefit to those individuals.
Yep.
Let's take an example. We could take two. Lending and valuations. Now we're talking about a 24/7 tradable asset. How often are valuations carried out on those assets?
Yeah.
Once every 6 months, once every 3 months. Right? So what valuation are you working on? You're working on an asset valuation, which is how valuations are done now, which is what is the value of an asset? Or are you working on a deal, like a yield valuation? So if there's a property worth $1 million, next door is another property worth $1 million, they're both on a fractional platform for investment. One, the rent is 100K. The other, the rent is 200K. An asset valuation would value them exactly the same.
Yeah.
But from an investment perspective, one is clearly better.
Yep.
So I think maybe you look at, I want to do some AI valuation on yield basis, and I want to now integrate to a lot of these companies. I want to sell that into that service.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people want to borrow to invest, or they want to release equity from someone that has already invested. Can I link banks and DeFi lending pools into that scenario to now enable them to lend or borrow against their assets? Now that obviously requires full VARA permission, etc., licensing.
Just
cover that.
Well done.
Right.
Well done. Good job.
But yeah, it's those additional products which I think are going to add a lot of value. And I think the more valuable your proposition is, the simpler it is, because you're not trying to carve out a USP. Like your product is the selling point.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ancillary services is definitely, it's ultimately a vital component of building a platform or a product offering in this space. You almost don't have a choice as a platform like Tribe to work with others. I think the biggest concern I still have is the lack of choice. I think that kind of validates what you're saying. Not that we would necessarily work with anyone different, but I think it is important that environment is continually challenged and moved forward. And the biggest one I would challenge is the client money account.
Yeah, I mean, it's we all bank with the same bank. And I think there are people that are looking to move into the space. I spoke to another bank, a Swiss bank, recently that were looking to say, okay, how can they move into this space? And I'm seeing more and more banks looking at this. Ultimately, it's a difficult one, because that client money account is for you. The crux of what gives all of that comfort, but the majority of that comfort to your investors, that they know that any money they put in goes into that regulated account that is very hard to get. Like, I don't think anybody listening or watching has any idea how hard that bank account is to get, because it's so
expensive.
And expensive.
No, my New Year's resolution was to not talk negatively about the banking infrastructure. It's really hard. It's possibly the hardest New Year's resolution that I've ever set, but I'm doing my best. But yes, I would love to see more, more choice, and through that, a higher quality of service, both to us as the primary customer, and then the Tribe's clients as well. So, looking ahead a little bit, what advice would you give to if I was meeting you now for the first time as a founder building in this space, or any other early stage founder looking at this space? Because there is a lot of interest. There's huge room for growth, right? Like you just mentioned, around whether it's ancillary products, direct tokenization platforms, broker dealers, issuers, you name it. There's obviously room for growth, both here in Dubai, in the UAE, and around the world. So if someone is looking to build in this space, what advice would you give to those founders to get right before they try building something that's kind of institutional grade quality?
I would say, first and foremost, Dubai is the place to do it. I think there's nowhere else in the world that has the opportunity to build new things like Dubai. I think if we were trying to do this in many other countries, we would not have started. Because you require government to be on board, you require regulators to be on board, all to do something which has never been done before. So you require a lot of people pushing forward. You need the ability for laws to be looked at pragmatically and saying, is this the right approach? Should we change this law, or shall we work around from a tech and governance perspective? What is the right approach? So Dubai is the place to do it. I think Vara do an incredible job of nurturing that ecosystem, bringing people forwards. We've mentioned earlier that they are a regulator, and that is their role. But I think they do almost dual hat it, and they do look at how can they build the ecosystem, how can they actually support businesses that want to do something. It's not just a case of rulebook says no, thank you. It's a case of that's interesting. Rulebook currently says no, but come to us and give us an idea of how you think this should work. And then we'll review it, and potentially we'll change. So I think that you don't get really anywhere else. So Dubai, a place to do it. I think then it's be very, very sensible about what you want to do. So come up with a plan for a solution, not 10 solutions, not 5 different verticals all doing different things. It's find a problem statement, solve it. Don't come up with a solution and then look for a problem statement. And as I've had this many times.
I bet.
It's someone will come to me and say, hey, I've got this great idea. And I go, what's the problem you're solving? Like, there's not really a problem. I think
therein lies the problem.
Exactly. I think the third one, and I think probably the most important one for me, is don't be scared that this is something new. This is not my background. This is not your background. what I think we're both good at is solving problems and coming up with solutions which benefit. I think as long as you've got that mentality, I don't think anybody should look at this and say, you know, I don't know anything about blockchain.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, just crack on.
Yeah. Just move forward and learn.
Yeah.
I must admit, whether it's Varus, I think we have to give a shout out to Vara for, like you say, their openness and their receptiveness to challenge or thinking. I don't know a regulator in the world. Certainly I don't have the experience, but I don't know any other regulator where you could quite so easily have a coffee and start with a fairly social chat and all of a sudden move into a regulatory framework discussion, and then all of a sudden you're seeing things happen, credit where credit's due in that respect. But I think the overarching theme, and I agree with you that Dubai is absolutely the place to do it. Why? Something that I don't think is talked about enough is that there is an incredible amount of highly experienced, highly intelligent, very good people here. And we ultimately connected on this top because of this topic, but like you said, we're able to challenge each other and solve problems together and actually throw problems each other's way and open up networks and ultimately just keep moving forward. And I think that forward momentum is so important in building a business, like you say, because you don't know everything right now, but you just have to keep moving forward. And if you can do that by surrounding yourself with, like I said, intelligent, experienced, good, nice people that you, going back to the coffee shop, would enjoy having a coffee with, I think that's really important. That's something we've done with real intent at Tribe, is building that advisory tribe to bring in a diverse range of experience, skills, networks, perspectives, so that we're constantly being challenged and challenging each other. And that's the thing I think that excites me the most going forward, is how we tap into that level of intellect and experience that I don't think we've even scratched the surface yet. So that would certainly be my advice to anyone looking to go into this space, is how do they surround themselves with others that know, not necessarily just more, but have other experience to add to their own.
Yeah. And I think one of the points that is an example I love using, and I think it really focuses on the people in Dubai that we have, like you said, the smart people, the driven people, is we always say, if you walk, you'll get there.
Yeah.
If you run and you fall down and you get up and you run and you fall down and you get up and you run, you'll still get there faster. And I think there's that very much that mentality here from a lot of people. It's like, we want to do things. Do we know everything? No, but we're going to figure it out. And as long as it's not like a one-door route, like we can come back, we can change direction. We'll still get there. You just keep that movement going, keep the momentum up and drive forwards. I think it's great for that.
Tokenization models, very quickly, looking ahead from your point of view, what tokenization models, commercial models, do you not think will survive kind of market movements, regulatory maturity? And other end of the spectrum, which models are you most excited about going into 2026, 2027?
It's a super easy one for me. So the main reason why we started working with the DLD is because we saw a lot of tokenized fractional ownership companies in the market.
Yep.
And it was an unregulated token, it's just an NFT. And it's saying, okay, you own a piece of this asset, but you don't. Ultimately, that asset is owned by someone else or that company.
Yeah.
And if you take them to court, you don't own anything, you just have a token. So I think when you see now the model that we implemented and the way that we structure nearly all of our projects is directly owning that asset natively, that token is your ownership.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that token has all the legal rights behind it, but that token is the movement of that legal right.
Yeah.
So when you move a token in DoD, it updates land registry.
Yeah.
So that's where your right is, at land registry. That token is the lever to make that happen. So native direct tokenization is the future.
Yeah.
And gone are the ways of just tokens being issued with a little bit of commentary in the metadata to say, you own 5% of this asset. So legal regulated tokens.
Very good. And final question. We're ultimately here on Block by Block, building Tribe in public. And I would like your prediction for Tribe's road ahead. I would like both the opportunities and the obstacles in whatever order you prefer.
I think opportunities are residential real estate. Fine, like that is your first as you move forwards.
Yeah.
I think then it's like, okay, how are you now starting to diversify these portfolios? So I would say the natural next sort of steps for Tribe are how are you giving your investors more?
Mm-hmm.
How are you moving away from we do real estate to we're now doing commercial real estate, we're doing off-plan opportunities, we're doing international opportunities. You're now giving your investors a platform to invest in a very easy, transparent, democratized manner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's first and foremost. Now, I think I would love to see you guys then branch away from real estate and bring in other opportunities and become an investment platform
Mm-hmm.
rather than a real estate investment platform.
Yep.
I think there's an enormous amount of opportunities in this market for that. And I think when an investor finds a platform that they trust,
Yeah.
and they can put their money in, they're seeing returns, it's natural that they then start saying, okay, what else? Why am I going to this other platform when I want to invest in this asset? Can you guys do that as well? I think multi-asset investment is the way forward.
Okay. And what obstacles do you think we'll face in getting there?
Regulatory, ultimately how, and this comes back to my previous answer. We love doing things in a way that gives you as an investor a legal right of that.
Yeah.
That is hard.
Yeah.
Can I create a token and I can say it means something? Yeah, that's easy. I can knock that out in 2 seconds. But it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
At least I wouldn't feel comfortable putting that out there into the market, and I know you wouldn't be comfortable selling it. So you're getting an asset in that token that when you purchase that token, you know completely that you own that asset. You have a right to that asset, and that requires a lot of work with the central register of those assets. So let's use an example. Say we want to sell gold. Gold's one we always love talking about from a tokenization perspective. You can buy gold now and you can buy it on a platform and it's an option. Or you can buy it physically and you have that gold. That's pure ownership.
Yeah.
You can buy gold-backed tokens where there's a token and it has a price and it is backed by gold, but it's not ownership of that gold. You can't redeem it. Then there's a way that you can purchase that gold token where that gold is linked to that token. So you can then go to a vault, you can have it redeemed. So you can buy gold and then you can sell it and say, I want that physical gold.
Yeah.
Or you can sell it to someone else. You can use it for leveraging. That takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's when the regulatory and the legal stuff comes into play. Tech is there. You can do that. It's the legal and regulatory work which is going to be the biggest blocker to then move forward and bring all of those additional assets on the chain.
So by focusing on, I guess, native tokenization of real estate assets, it gives us not only the simplest structure, but actually the cleanest and the safest structure for investors.
It's less counterparty risk. Those investors are not saying, someone else owns my asset.
Yeah.
They own it themselves.
Yeah.
So they've bought it for you, you're managing it, but they own it. It's in their name. In Dubai Rest, it's their title deed. They have their name on it. That gives you an enormous amount of trust in what you're investing in.
Yeah.
You're not giving your money to a platform and hoping they repay you. At the end of the day, you own that property.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's the goal, right? Increasing ownership, increasing participation, increasing liquidity. Robert, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being one of the first people to, well, first of all, listen to us, because again, we had some ideas, many of which have stuck and many of which we've had to, part ways with along the journey. But that idea has always been centered around that increasing access to investment grade real estate investments, and ultimately improving liquidity by using tokenization. And we almost stumbled into tokenization, if I'm totally honest with you, which I'm glad we did. But like I said, you're one of the first people that first listened to us, but then very quickly challenged our thinking, challenged our assumptions, and obviously we enjoy working with you, and we hope to continue that that relationship going forward. As we get ready for launch, like I said, we're building this in public. This is a pre-launch podcast. Hopefully not hopefully, we will go through, the operational launch and everything and continue documenting this journey. So I'm sure you'll be back. But on behalf of myself and the rest of the Tribe team, thank you for your input so far, and really a pleasure to work with you, and obviously the Control Alt guys as well.
You're more than welcome, of course.